Yo, 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 what's good, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the They Call Me Daddy Parents Podcast. Let me introduce my co-host. We got Mondo. Unfortunately, Matt couldn't make it today, so it's just Mondo and I today. Um, with that being said, please like, subscribe, make some comments. It all helps the channel on all platforms. We're on every major platform from YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, everything out there. You can find the podcast. So what's going on, Mondo? How you doing today?
Man, I'm just over here stretching, right? Because what the audience don't know is the origin of this podcast really just spurred from Mondo and Torrean having random phone conversations and they being bomb. And we're like, you know what? What if we allow people into those conversations? And shout out Mac, Mac, we love you. But today I feel like it's about to go back to a Torrean Mondo conversation, and they typically are OC. And I just feel like I need to stretch because this OC conversation is now about to be delivered to the world. And so I'm getting ready, right? Like this is a for real, like it's gonna be fun. But man, you know how we get it just be all over the place. So I'm good. I'm good.
Nah, for sure. I can feel that, and now I'm starting to feed off your energy a little bit. I woke up a little sluggish today, even though I got some good sleep that I haven't gotten in weeks. But right before the podcast, when I had found a burst of energy, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to get this today. So after hearing what you're saying right now, we're about to dive into it, I guess, right off the bat. So, you ready?
Nope. Yep.
All
Let's
right.
go.
So one thing I always admire about Mondo is he's never been afraid to go against the grain. He's always been somebody that, would do what he wants to do, even if it's unpopular, even if it's not necessarily received by people, and that doesn't mean that it's right for Mondo, right? And so like might disagree, or somebody else may disagree with Mondo, but he feels like it's right for him and he just does his thing. So with that being said, Mondo is he is, I would say, you could say he's a visionary. So Mondo has been a polyamorous relationship guy for many years, back when it was not popular, back when it didn't have the name polyamorous, whatever. Mondo is like, yep, that's my thing. So with that being said, Mondo, what did you see at the time? Like, what brought you to that in a nature where, yeah, some people are like, yeah, I got like a side chick, I got everything else, and you're just like, nah, I got like 10 girlfriends and they all know about each other.
See how he be amping? See how T be amping? So one, right, like just to set the tone, there is, and I'm gonna be very definitive. There is old Mondo energy, right? Like how I thought of things for a long, long time. And then there's newer Mondo energy where I'm like making new agreements, seeing what's best or better for me now. And so as I answer these questions, I'm probably going to answer them in two parts because, the way that I move through the world is ever evolving, right? We continue to change. However, if we just go back to the beginning, it was very simple for me that high school, lost my virginity, and I was like, well, this is dope, right? Like, oh, sex is dope. And then the idea of, so you saying get married, have sex with the same person for the next 50 years, nothing about that just made sense from the start, right? Just fundamentally, I'm like, how and why are people choosing to do that? And so early on, right, high school, right, we lie, we hide stuff, we, do all this, all the sneaky stuff. But then eventually, I would say post four agreements, reading the four agreements, be impeccable with your words, I really leaned into, I just need to start saying these things out loud, right? Like, I know it is not favorable to be like, yeah, I like you, we're doing this thing, but I also like her too, and I want to do this thing over here. And if you choose to opt out because of my behavior, cool, but I'm not going to hide it from you. And so some people might be like, oh, you're a player, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I presented the information. I was clear with the information. And then I give people to choose, the opportunity to choose, do you still want to kick it with Mondo or not? And so, yeah, like that is the origin of poly-ish. And like, it wasn't like I'm living with 2 chicks. It ain't like, it actually wasn't even on some, I got 10 girlfriends. It was just like the monogamous commitment to one person forever is just not something that I ever agreed on. So Torrean kind of amped it. You know what I'm saying? He's probably going to keep amping it. But I'm not a reality TV show Mondo or anything like that.
Nah, so I remember things a little bit different. I think Mondo was inspired by Flavor Flav and the Flavor of Love, right?
Come
like,
on now.
It was like, yo, if Flav could have 20 women vying for my love, I for sure could have that many women, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, minus the clock.
Minus the clock.
Mondo was like, yo, I'm going to push Flav to the side and do my Flav thing, you know?
Nah, so look though, here's the difference. Well, there's a lot of differences, but here's one. Now look, now y'all see how me and Torrean actually have real conversations one-to-one. One of the differences is I always wanted the baddest woman in the room. Right? Like, yo, if I come in and I'm like, oh man, there's a lot of cuties in here. And then there's like the baddest, like you look around and it's like, she's the one in here. Like, I want that one. But it doesn't mean that I have to go after her right now. Like, look, it might be a 3-year marathon until like finally we cross paths enough times, we kick it in the same space, we start talking, blah, blah, blah. And then like there's some unity there. So I share that context because I play the long game in relationships, meaning if it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be. Sometimes it's supposed to be when somebody else is still in the picture, right? And so like Flav, he just had 20 vying for him at the same time, and he just jumping back and forth trying to figure out what's what. I'm more like, man, just give me 2 of the dopest and I'm good. And so it's no disrespect to any woman. It's not saying that one woman was better than the other. It's not saying anything like that. It stemmed from my own mommy issues to start, right? Like if I really get into like the fundamental psychology of it, it's just like, oh man, like I lost my mom at 10. I was looking for a certain type of relationships in women, right? Rather it was somebody that super amazing at cooking, somebody that was like super loving, somebody that really was into sex, somebody that was super adventurous, one person that wanted to chill, right? It was just me seeking this external relationship with a woman or with women, things that one woman just didn't have in a single container. And up until this point, right? Like I haven't leaned into a relationship monogamously and be like, oh, I'm gonna try this forever, or I see myself doing this forever. I just haven't gotten to that point yet. So
yeah, see, I think that your final take there is the evolution from younger version of the old Mondo versus a new Mondo. But I think it's important for anybody to be like, man, this dude is a savage, he's a dog, he's whatever, to remember what it was like to be young. You know what I'm saying? Like, remember what it's like to be young. There's a game to be played, man. I look at, I see social media now, whatever, and it's just like, man, there's so much toxicity out there, but that's my older eyes looking at it from a younger point of view. But at the same time, when we were that age, we were all going through the motions as well, trying to figure out what's what, from, the first time you see girls really change in junior high and you're like, oh shit, this looks different than it did before, like, damn, like, where does she come from? You know what I'm saying? Versus, throughout dating out high school, then you hit college, and college is like, free for all, right? Like in some way, shape, or form, it's like free for all, but that's both sides, and then like, as you kind of, get out of college, mature a little bit, then you try to figure out, okay, what does my dating life look like, right? Like for me, I'm more of a traditional guy. I was, mainly single until I was like 26 years old. So, for myself, it was like, yeah, I dated, I did my thing, obviously, whatever. But like, I was.
You see how he was like, hey, Mondo is the poly king. Me, Torrean, I did whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, what was that? I'm gonna pause you because you gotta get in here for a quick second. The whatever season, was it respectful? Was it I was juggling a little bit? Was it I was trying to find my way? What is whatever to somebody who now is in a committed traditional relationship?
So looking back at it, I realized how insecure I was with myself. Right. And so I look at it like, man, I had a lot of girls and like, they might like me, but I would find any reason to sabotage whatever it was that, whatever it was that we may have had or whatever, even if it was just on some friendship. I'm just like, yo, if you had me fucked up, or if I felt like you had me fucked up, like, I'm going to tell you had me fucked up. Right. Like I remember a conversation and I was like, man, you got me fucked up. I snapped on somebody and they're like, yo, a text message has no tone. Right. Like they're like, a text message has no tone. So like, I wasn't even saying it like that. And man, they checked my ass because I'm like, yo, like I need to chill out. Right. Like I need to chill out. And so like, yeah, I mean, that would mean, multiple women, whatever the case may be. But a lot of times it was just friends. But I had a lot of great, solid, like, female
Women
friends. Female friends that just like I would learn from them or talk to them or whatever. And it was just all like, we weren't messing with each other. We were just strictly friends. Right. And so
is
like,
that the only difference? I got friends, gal friends, but because we had sex, is that the poly jump?
I mean, that's what people would say, right? That's where the judgment would come in, right? It's like y'all are sleeping together versus in my friendships, we ain't necessarily doing that, right?
Yeah.
But I really hurt somebody one time. I was wilding out, really hurt somebody one time. And I was just like, man, it reminded me of the way my mom felt growing up, the way I would see her from being a single mother to and only having me as a child. I would see her pain, right? And I seen how my mom, would react when like she was upset with me or a man or my dad or whoever the case, whoever she was mad at. I would see that. And I was like, yeah, I got to be better because she always told me that, like, you need to, like, when you come from a single mother, they always try to, with their sons, I feel like they put a lot of pressure on their sons to be like, you need to make sure you treat a woman respectfully and, do right by that woman. But that puts a lot of pressure on a man, like, on a young man, especially because it's like, yo, I might be looking to talk to one chick, but then she's out there doing her thing and talking to multiple people. And just like, there's a difference between dating and relationship. Right. And so like, that's just kind of how I view it. And that's where like, then all of a sudden, we're talking like mid 2000s. Right. But like, Mondo comes in and he's like, oh yeah, it should be like this. It's set up, people should have, you should just tell everybody the truth. And it was just like, huh? Like,
let me paint the picture a little bit more. Right. Yes. One, tell everybody the truth. There was a moment in college, my freshman year of college. There's no reason for me to put names in the scene, but I was in I don't even know if I was in a relationship, pseudo relationship, half relationship, whatever. And this person, we went to different colleges. And it was one of those seasons where I was like, yo, freshman year of college, I wanted to chill. I wasn't on campus at University of Tennessee. Like probably 3 people knew my name. I just wanted to be under the radar. And so I wasn't on nothing, wasn't messing with no women, wasn't doing anything. And so it was that season where I was just like, to myself.
Hold on, pause. I remember you being in Rockwood wilding out, bro.
No, absolutely
like
not.
In the country. You sent me that picture with that one girl, she ain't had no teeth.
Bro.
Hey, you called her Gumbella. Or maybe I called her Gumbella. You forgot about that?
I did. There ain't
my bad.
That is not a true story. This dude Torrean.
My bad.
This dude T. So hey,
Gumbella. Did
you
you get
see T.
veneers yet?
You see T. T talking about Rockwood. Okay. All right. Now shout out to the Rockwood family, right? If anybody in Rockwood is listening to this, man, we just be clowning because yeah, it's a different life. It's a different
Yeah, and
experience down
if
there.
y'all got receipts on Mondo's ventures with Gumbella or anybody else down there, post some pictures on social media so we can see them.
Nah, man, I actually don't have randoms. Like that's something we'll talk about later. Like I don't just be stumbling upon folks messing with them out the blue.
Okay. My bad. Yeah, continue your story though, man.
Where was I going with this? Oh, yo, it was literally just, there's a cat and mouse game a lot of the times, right? Very rarely do two people meet and they both like each other equally at the same time. Like one person likes the other just a tad bit more, and then like just a cat and mouse, right? Tom and Jerry. And so I was always Jerry. I just like, I'm just going to do what I want to do, whatever, and somebody could chase me. And then when I went to UT for that freshman year of college, I found myself in Tom's position. And like there was one night where I felt somebody else being the other gal being Jerry, and I could not sleep that night. You talking about being able to sleep, having a good night's sleep, fam? It was the first time in my life I'm in my mind so much wondering what this other human is doing, and it is completely outside of my control, and I can't go to sleep. Bruh, a good 15 years of my life, I was like, I will never experience not being able to go to sleep because my spirit is on what somebody else's behavior is. And so I would say that was a catalyst of me making sure that I was always Jerry, and I always created a narrative, created agreements with myself that I could never find myself in that Tom position. And so, again, like, this is me reflecting now, right, with more wisdom. Like, oh, it still comes from some pain. It still comes from some trauma. It still comes from something. And that's why we make the choices that we make, so we don't feel that hurt again. But that doesn't mean that the poly life wasn't dope. That doesn't mean it still ain't dope, right? Like, I don't know. Right now I'm chilling. Right now, actually, T, you don't know this. You don't know this, I don't think. Since Thanksgiving weekend, I made a commitment to be an abstaining sprint. And so I've been abstinent. I don't know how long I'm going to be, but never in my adult life I've been like, man, I ain't even going to have sex. And so that's new. So that's why I can say these things now, because for the first time in my life, I'm like, I ain't having sex with nobody, which is wild for me to say. Wild.
Now you did tell me that though. You told me
okay.
You was like, or at least you told me you were thinking about it. So I don't know if I knew that you fully committed to that or whatever. But so a random chick hurt you, and that kind of was like, after that you couldn't sleep. I didn't know that was a random. So that was
no, it wasn't a random chick. I was just not saying names.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it was a long relationship, but yeah.
So at that point in time, you were just like, man, fuck this shit. I ain't doing this no more. So this was pre-cadence. This is this is pre being a dad. Like I said, man, college is kind of a free for all. So you have cadence is born, and at that moment in time, was it just kind of like, you hear the songs, I'm a player, and I'm like, I'm not no player, I'm a truth sayer. Like, is that?
Ooh, I didn't have that bar in my pocket, but if I did, I'd have said it. I'm not a player, I'm a truth sayer, fam. Nah.
I'm a truth sayer. So like when you first, started getting to the poly game, like, and telling your truth, was there pushback? And like, how did you navigate that pushback to be like, man, like I had this.
Yep. So a wise man, and if you know who the wise man is, you know who the wise man is. But a wise man once told me, they always come back. And so, after I got that gem from the wise man, I was just like, here's what I'm on. And they're like, I'm about to dip. And they dip. And eventually, somebody else lies, steals, cheats, disrespects. And they're like, dang. Come back to Mondo. Because I was a hunter. right? Like we talk about being a hunter, like I'm loving, caring, kind. I want people to be successful. I want people to reach their dreams. Like I have all the other qualities as a good friend, a good human, a good partner. It's just my agreement with having sex with somebody for 50 years that like there was a disagreement around. And so to answer your question, it was simply, I say what I believe, somebody disagrees with it wholeheartedly. They move and shake and go do what they got to do. But eventually, like, we somehow find our way back together for some reason, right? It might be for a short time, might be for a longer time, but I just found myself being a safety net to like have a good time, right? Yo, we're not gonna be able to do this forever, but while we're doing it, it's gonna feel like a dope partnership, a dope connection. And I was just always honest. And when I wasn't, I would for agreements. Dang, let me do my best. Let me start over, and then just try to be honest the next time, right? And not meaning like hide something forever, but it's just like, yo, you got to say the thing. You got to tell the person the thing that you did. And because I practice telling on myself so much, like that's probably the best way of putting it. Because I made so many errors in what somebody would perceive judgment errors, but I always like faced it and told on myself. It got to the point that I learned like those relationships may not stay intimate forever, but the friend part of that relationship was super strong. You know, it's just like, yo, I know Mondo's not going to stab me in the back, right? Because the things that did hurt, he was willing to be honest. And over time, like he got better, right? He made better choices. I feel like he didn't intentionally go out to hurt me. He did tell me up front, like, this is who he is. This is what he is. This is what he does. And yeah, man, I would say that I'm grateful for amazing women that stuck with me for a long time.
No, for sure. And one question I kind of have for you know for women, like, you know, it's just me and you on this in this conversation. So like, if any ladies want to comment, you know, on make a comment in the social media, but
hey, I got tough skin
on one of our accounts. But
yeah,
one question I got is like, why do they always come back? Right? Like I've noticed that. Like I said, I had a lot of female friends, and I noticed it's like if the guy didn't get the message the first time, they're gonna send like 100 messages, and that doesn't mean like text message or anything like that, but they're gonna try 100 times to convince them that, oh, you know, this is the right way. Or if, you know, somebody cheats, it's like, oh well, I gotta convince them that, you know, I'm the one for them, or whatever the case may be. And it's just like, why the fuck y'all don't move on? Like, I don't get that. You know, like why are you trying to, you know, convince somebody that already knows and already has their mind made up of something? Like it's like an impossible mission almost. Or
yeah, I'm not going to get slayed by the audience by trying to put words into women's mouth. However, I will I will say that another wise person, I don't know if it was a wise man or a wise woman or something on TV, was just like, yo, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. Right? Like some people are you just see immediately. It's a big old red flag. It's 100-foot red flag. And you're like, is that green? Right? Like, and so as a dad, you brought up Cadence. As a dad, I am hopeful that Cadence, when she sees red, she proceeds knowing that it's a red flag. Right? Like, okay, you see how your dad moved. Right? Good, bad, or indifferent, however you see it, right? Like, you see it. And so don't see something and then, we talked about delusion last episode, right? You can be delusional for you and manifest something to life, but you can't be delusional thinking that you can change somebody else. I don't think that that's real.
So I was going to try to ask this question a little bit later, but I'm going to ask it now since you brought it. We brought up Cadence now, but like what you just said is you've seen how your dad moved. And what if her response is, yeah, but my dad's the greatest man I know. Oh, yeah. Right? Like, but although maybe that is red, right? Like maybe that's not best for her life, but she's like, oh, it reminds me of my dad, and that's it. What would be some advice you would give to like navigate that? Like,
Oh yeah, I mean, here's my ego is about to come out. If Cadence runs into somebody that is similar to her pops, because that typically happens, Cadence will quickly recognize that that person is B squad, right? Like, if you're like me in your behavior, because Cadence is so much like me, right? She's more of a mirror, right? Master manipulator at her age, right? Because that's how I started. Um, if she comes in contact with a male manipulator, she's going to know how to move and shake because she already has those tools. My question with Cadence is she going to be the puppeteer, right? Like, and then what does that do, right? Like, even if you just remove the sex piece from it, because I don't even want to think about that. But if it's just like, yo, Cadence got 6 different dudes that bring her on dates and they go kick it and have a good time. But the environment, people will start making their own judgment decisions. They'll start saying things that aren't true or whatever because they don't know. And so Cadence may emulate my behavior and people may frown upon it because she's a woman, right? Just because you're a girl and you're not with one person saying you want to get married, she may be frowned upon by outsiders, right? Like even her best friend or one of her best friends, right? Family that's been together since high school, right? Mom and dad, like very traditional relationship and just lived in that environment where Cadence is on the other side, right? Cadence's mom and dad, baby Rolling Stones. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so what does that look like for Kay as she gets older? She's able to see both sides and what that brings, and then she gets to pick. And she might experience all of it, right? Like I'm gonna say something that is so wild to me right now. I used to always say, I can never give advice to somebody that's married because I've never been married. It's just different, right? And so as I get older, I'm like, man, I'm talking to all these married folks, and all y'all seem like, most of y'all seem like y'all aren't happy with this situation. But I can't give no advice. So I'm like, man, like, am I supposed to be married one day to see? Is there a halfway point, right? Like, is having a fiance good enough? Or do you got to be married? I don't know. So let me ask you, T, as a committed human, not to put your business out there, but as a committed human, do you feel that the marriage responsibilities are present for you? Or do you feel like post marriage, it would be different, things would change?
I'm not sure I understand the question all the way, but here'll be my response, and you can let me know if I answer it. But I feel like having been with somebody for 13 years now, it's just one of those things where you see somebody at their high and their low, and vice versa every day, right? And so like sometimes those highs, like you both might be at a low, and it's clashing, right? Clash, and it's like, man, you got to try to navigate throughout this. Like life ain't all roses. It's not, and I don't think that's any different than, I mean, you can answer me if I'm right or wrong, but you being in a polyamorous relationships, or, having multiple partners, I would think there's still some of that that goes on, right? Like you still see that person at their low or whatever. Like for myself, I just always figure, I find myself to be very loyal. Like I am somebody that like loyalty means a lot, respect means a lot. And so, it's just, okay, well, you're going through a low, cool. I understand life ain't all roses. So let's just get through this low time so we can get back to the highs and be happy again. And so that's just kind of how I look at it. But it doesn't mean that, shit ain't tough. Like it definitely is tough,
So do you feel like if you were wearing a ring on your finger, would your behavior change? Or would you still be the same dude you are today?
I mean, I think I'd be the same. I mean, like we're not technically married, but we've been together 13 years. And, as the first episode we had this, y'all was clowning me. I was like, yeah, that's my wife. But I mean, I don't myself, like, and people that are actually, have went through a ceremony or paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars for their wedding or thousands of dollars for the wedding. Like, some of that shit just doesn't make sense. But it's just like, they might think it's disrespectful. Like, nope, we said an oath or whatever. But the reason, one reason we have never gotten married was just the fact that was something that was said right off the bat. Like, she never wanted to get married. I never wanted to get married. And so, like, but that doesn't mean we don't treat our relationship or have the same seriousness as a officially married couple, right? Like, it's all about how you act and how you treat that person. And so, like, yeah, if we went to the courthouse today and made it official by law, like, wouldn't nothing change, At least that's how I look at it, like, people there's a religious aspect of it too, right? Like, there's like under God, but it's like, for me, my relationship with God is my relationship with God. It's not for anybody else from the public to come and judge, right? Like, it's not for anybody to say, well, in the Bible it says this. Cool, right? But I've said my own prayers on it.
I'm laughing because if y'all know Torrean and you say something to him and he ain't with it, he's like, cool. But for me, you know what I'm saying? Okay, that's dope. That's dope. All right, then let me ask. You asked me about cadence, right? Meeting a version of Mondo. And I know Rainey's young, but a Mondo pull up to the door. I mean, you treating it like Will and Martin? You know what I'm saying? And Bad Boys?
Now I'm treating it like Negan from The Walking Dead, and smashing that nigga's head with a bat and that motherfucking barbed wire wrapped around that bitch.
Bruh, so you love me, Cousins Forever. You know I'm a good dude. Eventually I got better at making wiser choices around women. Why he ain't good enough for Rainey? Why younger me ain't good enough for Rainey?
Younger you can come back. They always come back. Younger you can come back at like 50, nigga. Like,
that's real. That's real.
And see what's up. And like, but for me, I don't even want to think about that shit, man. It gives me anxiety just even thinking about her dating one day, or like last night we went to the Wolves game, and like the whole game it was her first ever game, so she's excited, and she made a whole sign about the Timberwolves and all this stuff, and she's just leaning her arm all up on me like the whole time, like resting her arm on me the whole time, enjoying the game, just watching it that way. And I was just like, man, this is so dope, because I felt like we and her haven't done anything in a long time, just the two of us, and like, getting to share this experience of her first game together was dope. And but I'm like, man, in like 10 years, because in 10 years it's gonna, they ain't gonna be me no more, right? Like, all the time or whatever. And then I'm just like, yo, like, do I really want like her to come cuddle up on me when she was just cuddling up on some other nigga? Like, I don't know, my mind just went to the wrong place. So that's why I don't even try to think about that shit, because that shit just pissing me off. Like,
hey, bruh. All right. So this situation actually happened for real, and I'm not gonna say any names, but I'm curious how you would respond. So I went to one of Cadence's volleyball games, right? And there's somebody else on her team that has a boyfriend, and boyfriend comes to games, boyfriend's all cool with the family and stuff like that. And so, like, it's dope family support. And like, after a volleyball game, that family came out on the court, and they're all standing kind of in line. And the daughter jumps and gives the boyfriend a hug first. And so my question to you is, do you have a problem with not being acknowledged first if you standing in the line and then your daughter goes and jumps in homie's arms? Because I told Cadence, if that ever happened, I'm tackling him while you're in the air.
Oh, okay. First of all, your response just shocked the hell out of me, because
yeah, bro.
You're super low key and calm all the time and everything else. And so, like, as you were explaining that situation, I realized that yo, you were testing my Switzerland because I was, my calm vibe was like starting to get more mad because hell yeah, I'd be mad as hell. Like the fuck. Take them hugs around the corner, G, or
Bruh.
back the fuck up. And it's a chain of command around here, nigga. You ain't even on the chain.
Hey man, I promise you, like it'd be a joke for the rest of our life, but that is not happening. Ain't no way I'm standing next to a homie and you about to hug him first. And so, yeah.
Like, are you and Cadence, like, have you guys give kisses or hugs or like daps or like how do you show affection?
We have a certain handshake, and then like a hug, but it's more like a side hug. Cadence is actually not affectionate. She is similar to her mother. I guess her mom and dad early on, like we just ain't big on affection. Our family, fam. Yeah, so she kind of had double historical families that didn't show love like that, and so yeah, she ain't on that.
Yeah, like I remember when Rainey was a baby and Ricky would kiss her in the mouth, and at first I was like, man, like I ain't vibe with that. But then I realized, like, she's like, wow, that's my daughter, and I was like, cool. So we always give kisses on the mouth, like that's just our thing. And not to be like, it's just that's my daughter, like whatever, but it's just the way that we show affection, and it's just it became normalized. And I realized at that moment, like, man, like you said, our family, I'm like, man, I realized I was like, okay, I'm gonna put that aside because this is my daughter and I love her and everything else. And so, I hope that lasts forever because nothing better than getting a kiss like on the cheek or on my lips from my daughter. Like that's just a dope feeling. But when she starts to date, I was thinking about that too. And yeah, man, that's just pause time right here.
Hey,
that's pause time, bro. No, I mean, see,
I ain't mean to bring you there, bro. Like Torrean gonna have a rough day for the rest of the day, man. Thinking about the future.
Nah, I was thinking about that shit last night, ironically. So like, I don't know, I would be thinking about random shit, but I was just like, man, it's just dope to me. Like, my relationship with my kid is just so dope, and I love it, and so that's just why
have you ever envisioned walking Rainey down the aisle and giving her away?
Nah.
Okay. All right. Of all the things you've envisioned and imagined, that has not been one of them. Okay.
No, because it's, I mean, but I think like, I think at the end of the day, you just want somebody for your daughter that is going to treat them well, right? Don't put your hands on them. Don't leave them nowhere, and be respectful. Like, and that's all you can ask. But then it's up for me, like, as a parent right now, to let her know make her know her worth, right? Like, make her know her worth. So if a Mondo does come around and they're playing games, they could throw Mondo's ass like Uncle Phil used to throw Jazz out, like out the door, right? Like, yo, his ass gotta go. Like, you ain't even worth my time, and that's, go ahead.
What's so interesting about this is, I know we're talking about poly, but narcissists, like there's like a war against narcissists right now. And so I have been called a narcissist historically many of times. And it's interesting because narcissist is super confident, egotistical person, that there's some healing that's there, right? That needs to happen. Probably some trauma early on. Always merges with some empath, right? And typically that empath has daddy issues. And so together, I think those two humans, like, if they stay with it long enough and they both want to heal, right? Or they both want to be better versions of themselves, they eventually start to work through some of that stuff, right? And like get better and get better and get better. But I just share that because, man, like the narcissist and this love bombing and like all these different things that like is being frowned upon right now because they think that narcissists are just trying to manipulate everybody and take advantage of folks. And I'm just like, dang, like this war against that confident man, be kind of bothering me. So I just had to say that out loud. I don't even know why.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think men should be confident. I think women should be confident. And I think a lot of the recorrection of everything is just comes from a lot of insecurities within yourselves, or like I did you wrong, you did me wrong, type shit. Like that brings you back to my Pleasure P from uh Pleasure P, their R&B singer, but like he had the song like I did you wrong, you did me wrong, I take you back, you take me back, and it just talks about like I mean, relationships and how they kind of work and everything else. But, I do think like at the end of the day, it just comes down to being a good human. It's like and that's one thing I respect about your approach is just like the fact that you at least lay it out there. Like there's no lies being told. Like you're not like, a scandalous hoe out here trying to just, manipulate women and take from them and be like, yo, this woman buy me a watch, this woman buy me a car, this woman buy me all this shit. And then like, all of a sudden you at the mall one day and all three of them pop up and it's just this uncomfortable ass drama that's being filmed now and it's going live on all major platforms. Like that ain't the way you get down. At least you tell the truth and it's up to them to decide on what that is or what that looks like for their lives. And so like I think that's the difference. I think it just comes down to just being a good person and like, good people, good people doesn't necessarily mean just being monogamous, right? Like it's what's best for you. But if you decide to be monogamous, then you should be monogamous. You shouldn't be out here creeping and doing all this shit. You should be a truth teller like Mondo.
So let's talk about that for a second, because we keep nudging and pointing towards women and what the response of poly is to certain women and stuff like that. However, I know we all know dudes or have been the dude at one point in time where like we weren't honest, right? Like whether it's in our teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like it's like, dang, y'all still lying? And so like as a man, at what point is it our responsibility to stop lying, to stop being fearful of telling the truth, even if that means that the person that you care about or the person that you love is going to leave? And so I don't even really have a question. I think I'm just speaking to men right now. Like, yo, there is something about becoming a better version of yourself where you have to kind of face those old demons with the person that you're with right now. Right? Like, yo, if you've been lying, stealing, and cheating, we'll just say lying. If you've been lying in your last 5 relationships, you're probably lying in this one. And eventually the one that you really care about, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to do this right. But you started off lying. And so you got to go and fix those old lies. You got to do those things. You got to tell the truth and be okay that, man, this person might leave me. But you have to do that for yourself or else you're just never going to find that inner peace. And so,
yeah, I mean, so men write that in the comments, right? Like at what age should you be done lying, or what maturity point should you be done lying in relationships, or like should you just keep the lie going? Like is that just part of your player ways and you're just like, yo, I'm never gonna I don't owe bitches ain't shit and I don't owe nothing. Like is that is that what you're saying? Like
that's wild. It's so wild, yo, because I just know that there are many of humans, many dudes, super macho, right? Like I am that guy, but still be lying. I'm just like, dang, fam, why? Why are you lying?
Yeah, I mean, I think too, like, from a maturity standpoint, like I just said, bitches ain't shit, but like that's just to get the crowd riled up. But like, I don't look at women like that. Anymore, I should say. Like, at one point in time, I'm not gonna lie, at one point in time, that's just ingrained in our culture, and that's just how we're supposed to look at it. I don't look at them like that anymore.
Hold up. Can you give me some credit? Because you got it. If you're gonna say this dude Mondo Poly, can you at least say Mondo ain't never called a woman a bitch?
Yeah, Mondo ain't never called no women no bitches. He been calling them hoes all this whole time. I'm just playing. But yeah, Mondo been on that for a minute. Like, I mean, forever. Like he ain't never, I've been on no disrespectful type shit like that. So, but let's go back to your poly shit, Mondo. Real quick. But yeah, credit to you, Mondo.
Thanks,
credit
man.
to you, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. That was something that was important to me.
Like I said, you a visionary out here. So you was the against the grain, the anti bitches,
All
So,
right.
have you ever lost anybody that you thought would come back that never came back? And
Ooh.
is it time to reel them back in?
Ooh. That's a good question. So I remember in my was Cadence born? Cadence was born or not. Or maybe she was super young.
And for
Oh
context,
yeah.
Mondo, you had Cadence when you were at 21,
Yeah.
right? So just I should have been said earlier, but yeah, Mondo had Cadence when he was 21.
So this is probably when I was 22. Because Cadence was still like kind of crying through the night. Might have been 21 or 22. Cadence was like still crying through the night. And when I would hear her cry, I'd have to get up and go lay with her and stuff. There's this one gal way back 21, 22 that I really, really liked. We never had sex though. And I just thought she was super dope. And I remember one night, super late, she sent a text. It was one of them like midnight texts. But it was the night that I had already went to go lay with Cadence because she was whining and I left my phone in the other room. And when I woke up the next day, because I never got a midnight text from this person. It just never, you know how that thing, you go out and it just kind of happens. Never got it. And that night I got it, but I didn't receive it because I was being a dad, being a good dad. I felt like, that was God working his magic because I wasn't supposed to be that dude for her. But that was one person I was just like, yo, that person never came back. Right? They ended up going, getting married, having a nice, dope life. So that would be one. And then more recently, for sure, like dope, I would say like probably Hollywood vibe relationship is the best way that I would put it. When you like see two people together and you're like, oh, like they really rock hard together. Like they're good for each other. You know what I'm saying? And when that relationship didn't work and I was doing my best to be monogamous, when that relationship didn't work, that person never circled back. Right? I ain't talked to her in years. But I was just like, I would have wanted that person to circle back. Or like in my mind, I'm like, is that person going to circle back? And so like, those are two situations that are fully present on like the circle back. And when I say circle back, it don't have to be in 2 years. It could be in 20. And so that's where I'm like, yo, we go and we live our lives. We experience the things that we're supposed to experience. But when two good people come together, if they're meant to come back together later, they will, right? When they're more healed, when they're have more space to be more monogamous, or when they have space to be more intimate, or they have more tools to show up for the other person with more empathy. Like we just go through this life and we pick up more skills, and along the way, like we share those gifts with others. So yeah, I would say there's two people.
So no shouting out no names, no like,
Nope.
yeah, all right, cool. So if you think Mondo is talking about you, ladies, hit them up, circle back. No better time than the present. You're getting abstinence, Mondo, so there's no pressure.
Nah, man,
There's no pressure.
I want to stay in that abstinence space. Like the one thing that I will say, like, and another person, because I'm talking about these random people. And I've noted this person in a different podcast. But there's one person that stuck with me the longest. And if it wasn't for that person, I wouldn't have developed more of these tools, right? Because the gal that stuck with me the longest, I would say, modeled unconditional love in a partnership. Like, oh man, we get flack for certain women get flack for putting up with certain stuff. Like, how you gonna put up with that? You put up with that. You came back after that. You right? And because I do believe that I have a good heart, seeing how my behavior caused some tears and tears and tears and more tears and more tears, and eventually being like, man, I don't want to cause those tears, but I still am a selfish dude. And then just seeing like, man, the resilience that this human has to continue to show up for me and be kind and caring or whatever, and how much I had to shift from treating that person as an intimate relationship and more like a friend, right? Like once I made that shift and I was just like, yo, you're my best friend at this point. right? Like the roles started to shift. My choices and how I operated shifted because I know I am an extremely good friend. I'm an amazing friend. Historically, I just haven't been the greatest boyfriend or greatest partner leading to fiance marriage. So just shout out to my longtime friend. Like I am so grateful for the stick-to-itiveness, the love that you showed me, that now like I have more love for myself. And I already love myself. I be telling people like I love myself so much. I didn't think it was possible to love myself anymore. And then this person helped me love myself even more. And then God stepped in like, all right, here's your last step. Like, bro, I don't think it's not possible for you to love yourself anymore at this point. And so like pure love, I believe. And yeah, I love me.
So that brings me, that was a question I had, but like, you kind of mentioned or asked me the question about, unhappiness and, in a relationship. But can like polyamorous relationships lead to heartbreak? Like, can you remember any times from old to new where you're just like, man, you crushed somebody, and you thought there might have been an understanding that there wasn't?
Yeah, it was a line that I crossed. If you think of for the lack of a better word, priority, like, yo, this is my main. And
So like, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
I don't know why, man. I thought about you like DJ from Hustle and Flow when you just said that was my main. So hey, okay. So go ahead, man. Break this shit down. That was your main.
Oh man, this dude.
Go ahead, DJ. Go ahead, man.
All right, man. So I had my main, and and there was some main agreements, right? And one of them was just more just the feeling, right? Like the person that feels like they're the main. And so my certain behavior, right, typically was, yo, no matter what I'm doing, you feel that you're the main person. And then somebody else just came out the blue, like whirlwind. And there was something about this secondary relationship that started to be more on par with my main relationship. And again, it wasn't like the main was any less. It was just like, man, this is a season in my life where like this person brought all the things that my main person didn't. And I didn't even know that I was looking for these things. And it created some extreme heartbreak because I made an agreement to my main person that like, yo, I can control my heart. I'll never open my heart in a way that is disrespectful to you, right? And then it happened. And then that kind of showed me like, but fam, you can't control your heart, bro. Like it's impossible, like that. It ain't even about like falling in love. It's just like, yo, your heart is yearning for something that you don't even know is there. And when it shows up, you can't not have it. Like, I guess you can, but for me, I feel like I'm put here to feel, right? To feel, to experience, to do all the stuff. And that's the agreement that I made with God, right? Before it was just agreement I made with universe. I didn't say God. But back then it was just like, yo, God, I want to experience all the stuff. Like, give me all the things. Give me the dopest friends, dopest relationships, dopest sex, dopest outings, dopest. And so when it showed up, I'm like, well, this is for me. Like this is for me. Thank you. And a lot of the times it resulted in somebody else feeling like this is Mondo being selfish Mondo again. But I was just like, yo, this is the life that I want to live. So
no, I can dig that, man. I think we talk about like old Mondo versus new Mondo. I think the kind of the purpose of why I wanted to kind of talk about this today was just because there's a lot of single people out there. That single people that are just like, man, I'm never falling in love again. I'm never going to give another chance to a relationship again. We say these things, but yet I think naturally, like I think naturally people are supposed to be surrounded by good people. They're supposed to be good relationships, positivity relationships. You're supposed to have fun, right? And so, like, for those that have vowed out, like, I'm never falling in love again, like, hey, maybe it's just like, okay, cool. Maybe not to one person. Maybe this might be something, you know, polyamorous might be the life where they're like, nope, I used to be in poly and now I like to transition out. So, like, new Mondo, do you still have the same feelings, you know, for polyamorous relationships, like the same like vouch or same viewpoints as you did as old Mondo?
I don't think so. I believe that one of my core new agreements is do no harm first. So I still haven't gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, I know for sure I'm supposed to be married. Right? Like, that's not a thing. But, you know, patience is a virtue. Right? So if somebody comes into my life, showing up for that person all in until I'm not supposed to be in that person's life anymore is kind of where I'm at. But, like, just do it one at a time. Right? Like, cool. Like, you my main. If somebody else comes up, me having the discipline to be like, like, that either ain't for me right now and I got to move that person out, or, hey, man, we've went as far as we needed to go, right? And then, like, the next person kind of comes in. But I also found myself knowing that, like, trying to find that space between is probably healthy, right? Hence this abstaining season of my life. So, like, to be with a partner for so many years, trying not to just jump to the next partner is something that you and I talk about, like finding that gap, finding that space, and just not just falling into something else, and then the same routine, same bad behaviors, bad habits kind of happen. So I've been very intentional to just create that space to allow the healthiest person to step in next. And if I'm not on sex, if that's not my priority, then hopefully that relationship is super healthy, because we know, like, yo, when you add sex to the mix, it can get toxic real fast. You know, like, the possessiveness can happen real fast. The level of necessary commitment can happen real fast, because it's like, yo, we're intimate now. And so, like, we make certain agreements on what should happen after you have sex for the first time. And so I found myself, like, really being cautious and patient just on the sex piece at this point in my life. Like, what happens if we don't have sex? Can we just kick it for a year? Not that I want to abstain for a year. I'm not saying that out loud, right? But I'm just saying, like, does that create a completely different Mondo? Does that create a Mondo that's just like, oh man, maybe I would want to get married one day if I could do this, and it might be doper than having sex with two women, right? Like, I don't know. So I want to experience all the stuff. So I set up my life in a way that eventually I pivot. I'm like, oh, I've never done this thing over here. Let me go try this. And if I like it over there, I stay over there. You know, if you want to go to a different place on the Mario board, I go over there. So, yeah, man, like, people are going to listen to this and be like, man, this dude Mondo all over the place. And I would respond by saying, like, yep, I sure am. And I'm honest up front. And it's likely you probably want to be that open too. So be it. You know, just say the thing that you want to do.
I feel you. So, all right, I'm gonna let you tee up my next question, because I got a wild Torrean question that's like way the hell up here.
Okay.
I could either ask you a mid-level question. You know, which one do you want?
I mean, we already there. So, you know what I'm saying? Go skyrocket. And then if we need that to be a family matter, then I'm going to be like, family matter.
Nah, cool. So what, you said abstinence, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean no nuts is being busted?
Oh yeah. Good question. Nah, straight up. So here's something super wild. Before I even got to the abstaining piece, I was already on semen retention. Like I ain't busted a nut, nigga, in a minute. You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, when I say
he gave us the dictionary
title.
definition.
Yeah, man.
He said semen retention. Like, nigga, like, what the fuck?
Well, like, yo, Like, it was very intentional. It was, all right, Mondo, you're trying to be more disciplined in your behavior. Well, where do you start? I wasn't about to just be like, I ain't about to have sex. But I'm like, yo, I could have sex and not nut though. And so like that's just where I started. And then eventually I was just like, all right, I can continue to do this, or I can just jump all the way to no sex and abstain for a while. And so here I am on this abstinence piece. I don't know for how long, but I'm here.
Yeah, that was my next.
All right, have you ever intentionally been like, I'm gonna go on a month, 3 month, year abstinence sprint?
Yeah, I've done it before.
Oh yeah. What came out on the other side? Is there something that like a year from now I'll be like, dang, that was dope, or would I be like, man, why'd you do that?
Good question. So I would just say that, this was back in the day, right? And I ended
Hold
up in
up,
my
hold,
go ahead.
hold up, hold
Go ahead.
up.
Go ahead.
Just so we can have clarity, is this abstinence and no nutting, or you were still jacking off?
Nah, so I wouldn't say it wasn't even just that. Like,
Oh, okay.
man, it wasn't even just that. I can't even go through the particulars because I don't want to disrespect my current relationship like that, But it was just like no sex, basically, right?
Okay.
But with that being said, yeah, I mean, I would say it led to my current relationship, right? So like, prior to me meeting Ricky, I was like a year and a half, 2 years.
Word.
Because I hurt somebody. So I alluded to that earlier. Like I hurt somebody, and I was just like, yo, I'm gonna shut it down.
Dang. Well, I mean, you say year and a half, 2 years.
I mean, it sounds crazy, especially when you're in your 20s, right? Like, especially when you're in your 20s, it sounds super crazy. But at the same time, like, man, we talk about being having a good heart and having a good, being a good person. Like, that's always who I was, and that's always who I've always been. I'd always try to present myself and be respectful and be the best version of Torrean. So like, with that being said, I had to go and do some soul searching.
That's dope. That's dope. As you're saying it, I'm just wondering, is it like that just part of getting ready to be married? Because you ain't gonna get none when you get married. Because that's what I be hearing in marriages. You know what I'm saying? It'd be sprints where like y'all ain't having sex for a minute.
Yeah, so. I mean sometimes, but sometimes not. I mean sometimes it's enhanced or better, But for the judges out there, I'm not technically married, so I can't answer that question.
No, that's real.
The motherfuckers that like to get technical out there, But yeah, I mean, I think it's dope that you're trying that. What was the semen retention, whatever the dictionary definition that you dropped on us. Hey,
let me say one more thing, because let me tell you why part of the semen retention strategy. I remember because you keep talking about being a DJ, right? Like, I remember when I was in college, I went to FAMU, and if anybody's watching this dude, Dr. Denard, one of the dopest educators I have ever encountered in my life. And he said this story one time. He was talking about being a Jedi, like a Jedi Knight for real. And he was just like, yo, like if you just think about it, right? Like your semen, the thing that produces life, you continue to get rid of it. He was like, part of reaching your peak self, which he called Jedi, right, is being able to retain that. So then it like, it's just part of you, you know what I'm saying? And you just create a different type of energy within yourself. And so just on some like Jedi Knight stuff, like that's why I started the semen retention in the first place. I was just like, yo, to become the best version of myself, do I need to stop having sex just to retain my own semen? And so that's Mondo superhero stuff. That's how I started.
Okay. So, all right. Another wild question. We just gonna go there?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So there's some people that drink their own shit.
Nah, hell no. Absolutely not. What? This dude Torrean in his one cup. You know what I'm saying?
Hey man. Hey. There's some people that do that shit out there, bro. Like, you know,
Nah. Nah, I'm straight. Nah.
they're like,
When
oh,
I
it
said
came.
go to these different boards and try all the things. I ain't trying that. Ain't no need for me to try that.
All right, we go a couple more questions. We gonna wrap this shit up, man. That's because I am tripping right now, so I'm gonna try to get us. I'm gonna try to get us back. I'm gonna try to get us back on track with
Hey,
this
now
shit.
y'all know. I started this podcast saying, man, the conversations with Torrean be wild because he pulls questions from out the ether that it's like, fam, where you get that from? And so
I
we
mean,
go there.
I asked questions I thought the audience might want to hear.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Go for it.
So okay. So
Actually, real quick.
Yeah.
If somebody, because you've been telling people put stuff in the comments. If somebody has an OC wild question that is like, Torian should have asked this. I'm curious what that question is. Like, I want to know somebody that's like, no, this is a question I really wanted T to ask. What would that be? So yeah, drop that in the comments.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, we're gonna ask this question. Any advice if new Mondo could go back to old Mondo and give some advice, what would that be?
Nah, bro. Like you a code. You code. Like,
okay,
fam. Nah. Every choice that I've made, I believe has been the right choice for me. And then I say that with full certainty because eventually we just learn from those choices. If we would have made a different one, if we'd have made different choices, we'd have just got a different lesson, right? So, nah, bro. All my choices have been dope for me, even though it's hurt some other people, but they've all been dope. They all got me to this point, to be this version of myself, to be this confident, to have this relationship with God, to be this faithful to myself and to my family. So I wouldn't change a thing.
Cool. All right. And then you brought up marriage, bro. So is that something you would ever consider? Or, and what would that look like? Or what would that, right now, what would you say that would need to look like?
What would I say marriage would have to look like right now? Bruh, I have no idea. But I will say that there was a short time in my life where, like, this was years ago. I was like, God, are you telling me I'm supposed to get married? Like, it was just something on my spirit. And I was just like, dang, like maybe. And then that ended up shifting. I don't know why God put that in my heart back then. So I don't rule anything out because I want to try all the stuff. But there would have to be some new rules to our parameters in marriage. So, for example, as a problem solver, right? This is probably going to make somebody mad. As a problem solver, back in the day, I was just like, yo, I think it would be super practical if you get married that at year 10 or year 15 and at year 25, there's like a month grace period where y'all know either one of y'all can opt out without any friction, without there's already a legal separation agreement. And you just, we made it 15 years. We're completely different than we were 15 years ago. Yeah, this ain't it no more. And just opt out. Same at 25, just because we continue to evolve as humans. And so something like that would probably be in alignment with like our marriage agreement. Rather, if it's every 5 years, like we literally have a mediation to be like, yo, are we going to keep doing this for another 5? Because I think that forces the two people to really be intentional in between time, right? Like sometimes you get married and you're like, well, I'm complacent now. Like I ain't doing all the things that I used to do, right? Before I got married, I'm not showing up. I'm not courting. I'm losing myself, right? And so it's like, if every 5 years you have to kind of re-up, like you are going to be more intentional to be like, man, let me continue to show up the same way I did when I first met her or when I first met him. So things like that, conditions like that, I would want in place because I think it creates a different type of healthy relationship.
Cool, man. I always tell you, man, like, from being a in a traditional relationship, I always kind of feel like, share with you privately, that, I hope that for you one day. I hope you can get that one day. Just because I see the benefits of just having somebody that rocks with you and only you every single day. And it's vice versa. Like you're pouring in equally the amount, if you were to take a Kool-Aid jar, you were pouring in half the Kool-Aid, she pouring in half the Kool-Aid, right? And it's like,
but you need the sugar too, though. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you can create your own sugar. You know what I mean? Like that's the sugar.
Okay. I thought I was supposed to bring somebody else that had the sugar. My bad.
Nah, yeah, see, that's the difference. You see what I'm saying? That's exactly the difference with what we talking about. I like that analogy, but that's what I'm saying. Like, yo, we creating our own sugar. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you like, yo, somebody else got to bring the sugar. So I think that's pretty dope, man. But man, I'm gonna give you the final word on it, man. Wrap it up for us.
Oh man, Mr. Trojan man, wrap it up. So I would say that I am extremely confident in my decisions simply because I'm willing to accept the consequences of them. If anybody that knows me knows, I believe everything happens exactly the way that they should all the time in perfect harmony. It's a perfect love story if you believe that it will be that. And so the perfect love story can't manifest if you're not being honest with yourself. So man, like whether you're a guy, a gal, like, and you need to leave that relationship, or you want to tell that person the truth, or you want to ask them to get married, or whatever the thing is, man, do the thing. Say it out loud. Like, it's for the next chapter. And so don't be stuck on that last page of the previous chapter, man. Turn the page.
Oh, you don't got to turn the page, Bobby V. Okay, I see you.
Once we get off, I'm about to tell you something, and you're gonna be like, "Wow!" Watch.
All right, bet.
All right.
With that being said, man, for Mondo, I am Torrean, aka Daddy. I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning of the podcast. So everybody know who the fuck I am anyway. We out.
Peace.
They call me Daddy.